Welcome to Fuck Your Feelings.
All right, welcome back. What's going on this week? I only thought about like doing the woke shit today because like you're watching The Sopranos, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember watching The Sopranos on like CTV when it was on at like 7 or 8 p.m. or something like that. And it was just censored to fuck. And then I was like, I wonder like what other examples there is of like shit that was just censored, right? And it started going down like the woke rabbit hole. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be in this rabbit hole right now.
Yeah.
Because one of the songs I was listening to was the song Teenage Dirtbag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that song, they kind of dubbed or muted over the lyric, "He brings a gun to school."
Oh, what?
Yeah, because like I guess it's the radio edit or whatever, but now it's hard to find the other version where they actually say like, "and he brings a gun to school," because now it's "and he," and then the song, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit?
That's just sad.
It's just like, and then I remember when I was staying with how do I do it without giving out names? Snaggletooth.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So
took me a minute.
his ringtone was supposed to be the song "Sexy Bitch," right? That fucking LMFAO song.
Yeah.
But what it actually was "Sexy Fish."
Oh wow.
Everything else was the same, but bitch was swapped with fish.
Yeah. I'm not a big censorship fan myself.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And it just feels like that's where everything is going now. And it's like it started with just censorship, like, oh, we can't use like the word retarded. We can't use the word spaz. We can't say like bring a gun to school. You know what I mean? It's like that's like, okay, yeah, I can kind of get where you're coming with that. But like the new woke shit is taking white characters, or I guess I don't have to say white characters, just a character, and changing their race in like a comic book, a TV show, a movie, just to be like, just to say like, hey, we acknowledge this race. Look, we changed him from whatever race he was to fit this race that's in the news now.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of censorship at all, like no matter what it is. I think if you want to keep your kids away from certain things, then sure, like there should be like kid specific programming where, they don't say fuck and they don't say like shit or retarded or cocksucker or, I could go on and on, but like there's no bad words or whatever, but it's like specifically stated that it's like for kids or I don't know, liberals. So, what I would do is everything else that's for adults and people who are, normal, they can hear these words. Like I hate a certain time of day on like old TV. Like they couldn't say fuck, but if it was like on a certain channel after a certain time of day, then they could say fuck. It's like put a like warning in front of it if you don't want your kids to watch it, but otherwise like just censorship is completely fucked up. I hate censorship. Like if I want to see a big pair of tits on my face, I should be allowed to see that, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go to like Blue Nui at like fucking channel 2 at 4 a.m. just to see tits, right?
Yeah, I remember like watching like R-rated movies with my parents when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And like fucking something would come on the screen, like some chick with like her tits out, and I would just be like, oh shit. My dad would like, turn your head. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, you just get that weird look. You give them the weird look like, you know I'm seeing this, and they're giving you the weird look like, what are you seeing this for? Look away.
Right, right. But like, all this like blood and guts shit was perfectly okay. Like, you
Yeah.
know what like shoot somebody in the head, see their brains like splattered on the wall. That's all right, but see a pair of tits? Oh no, that's like too much for a kid.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I'll go back to The Sopranos because that was the big thing that kind of, I don't want to say blew up, but like highlighted how shitty censorship is for me, because even CTV had less censorship than A&E, than the Arts and Entertainment Channel. Watching The Sopranos on A&E was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, they'd skip out all the scenes at the bada bing because there were so many fucking tits there,
Oh
right?
wow. There was a
And
lot of important shit went down at the bada bing.
right, like that's probably 10% of the storyline goes down at the bing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like, it's fine to show someone getting shot in a car on that same show, on that same channel, but you don't want to show us tits. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
why are we showing gore and everything like that when we're not showing, like, I'll give it to them. It wasn't like excessive gore like we've seen before. Or sorry, it wasn't excessive gore like we see on the news. It was gore in a TV show meant for entertainment, whereas the news is meant to keep you scared, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Sopranos on like anything besides HBO, but I know that it would not even be worth watching because there'd be so many parts, like important parts missed it, like from just, like we said, the Bing or whatever, like a
Yeah,
lot of like important like plot points happens at a strip club. So, that's like their place that they go to talk business.
yeah,
And, you know, the whole thing is revolving around the mafia. So yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I remember like a lot of like songs on the radio used to like skip out like F words and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like I don't know, like I kids hear worse than that at home most of the time, you know? Like I know I heard my dad swear when I was a kid. I didn't
Oh,
turn out
fuck
to
yeah.
be like a corrupted youth or anything. Like it's just a word, right?
Well, I mean, there's arguments about corrupted youth, but yeah. I could argue that we are corrupted youth because we don't just fucking do and say what everybody wants us to. You know what I mean? But yeah, like we're not going out shooting fucking bottle rockets up dogs' asses and shit, right? Like we're not that corrupted youth. We're the corrupted youth that asks questions.
Yeah. So it's funny that nowadays that would be considered corrupted.
Yeah,
Somebody who thinks for themselves
yeah,
instead of like somebody who just toes the line and does whatever they're told. In a way, those are the corrupted ones. Those are the ones that have been brainwashed.
yeah. And like the funny part now is like I try and look at like shows that I watched like as a kid and try and rewatch them now and just be like, fuck, this wouldn't last like past the pilot. This wouldn't last past a season. Like, what the fuck is going on with the world? Like, here's a prime example. I watched two totally different shows. At one point, I'm gonna sound way older than I actually am. I watched Leave It to Beaver because it was on when I went home for lunch. I watched that, and then after that was like Price is Right or whatever. But then I also, when I got home from school, I got to watch All in the Family. And it's like, all right, like that's two totally different things now, but back then it was the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah. A Hole in the Family wouldn't last a minute today. They
Oh,
would
no way.
say, "Oh my God, this guy is like an ultra mega conservative. He needs to be taken off TV and canceled and his life ruined and all this stuff." When
Yeah.
really, the guy who played the character was actually more left leaning. But the funny thing is, left leaning back then is what they would call right leaning today. That's how far the goalposts have been shifted,
Yeah.
right? So I think they would have like tried to cancel this guy and everything. When back in the day, yeah, he was like a card carrying liberal. which is kind of crazy.
Well, you think about it. If they brought back All in the Family now, right? Like, because they're doing it with so many other shows, they're bringing the shows back, and they're swapping everything around. So now it wouldn't be Archie Bunker's house, right? It would be I can't remember. It would probably he'd probably be living with his kids. You know what I mean? And then the kids, one would just be obviously his kid, and then the other would not obviously be his kid. And they'd make a point to say, like, you can't talk to him this way. You're in our house. You know what I mean? Like, they'd
And
make
one
a
of them would
point
be
to
half
push him
black.
away.
One of them would be half black, and the other one would be non-binary, and one of them would be trans.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, whatever happened to normal people?
Oh, it's just like it's beyond, like, it's so beyond that, because like I told you, I started watching that Resident Evil show, right?
Yeah.
It just came out, what, like today on Netflix, I think, or last week, one of them. And I'm watching it because I love Resident Evil. Like, I love the whole,
Me too.
kind of the whole universe that's built around it. So I'm watching it, totally fucking open mind, and probably about, I'll say maybe 20 minutes in, they reveal that the main character girl, who's African American, they reveal her last name is Wesker. So I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Like, I'm 99% sure Wesker from all the other Resident Evil shit is Caucasian. And so I went online, just put in like Resident Evil Wesker, and sure as shit, I was right. It's all Caucasian people. Like, it's all Caucasian drawings, concept art, fucking everything. But now the Resident Evil that just came out has basically a fully African American Wesker family, which is not what the Weskers were originally, because originally the Weskers were just like a white, I'll say like a fully white, privileged, rich family, basically, right?
Yeah, he was like in some kind of secret organization, so he was like top tier, whatever. But yeah, I see what you're saying. And it's interesting that they so easily can do stuff like this, and you see it in other things like The Witcher and like other movies and whatnot. But if like they made a new Blade movie tomorrow and they put Hugh Jackman as the main character, the internet would lose its collective mind. They'd
Yeah.
be like, they're whitewashing Blade. They're whitewashing Blade. Oh my god. But you know, any other character you can just make them black and it's like not a big deal. Well, whatever happened to consistency? Like character consistency and like canon consistency. And I don't know if you watched it yet, but the What If series,
No,
it's Marvel. It's like an animated 30-minute episode series, and there's about 8 episodes in it, I think.
right.
And basically, it's supposed to be a throwback to the comics. And I used to love the What If comics back in the day. Like, what if um, Professor Xavier killed Wolverine and like shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And basically, the whole what if thing, like most of the episodes was basically like, what if Captain America was a woman? What if Professor X was non-binary? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Jesus.
all this like woke shit. Like, I'm being hyperbolic with the Xavier thing, but like
Yeah.
basically the whole thing is like Star-Lord, they make Star-Lord black and they make Captain America woman, and they keep like going back to those characters throughout the season. It's just like, really, dude? Like, you couldn't think of anything more interesting than making Captain America a woman or making Star-Lord a black guy. Like,
Yeah.
of all the possibilities, where basically they're saying like, okay, there's a multiverse and there's like infinite possibilities. That's the best that they could come up
Yeah.
with.
All you could do is change a race. Like, come
Fucking
on.
pathetic, man. It was so pathetic. I watched the whole thing and I was just like, fuck, that was pointless. It was terrible. What a wasted opportunity.
And it's sad that something that you could literally create whatever the fuck you want in the world, because it would be a what if, right? So like, what if Star-Lord had no ears, right? Like, how is he going to listen to the music and dance around and do all that shit, right? Like,
Yeah, there's all kinds of like
there's
possibilities.
so much shit. Like, here's one. What if Thanos had no arms,
Right. How's he gonna snap?
right? Like, boom. What the fuck happens now? Right?
Yeah,
And
I
then he
mean, like,
steals the arm from the Winter Soldier, and then he's got to go get the gauntlet, right? Like,
yeah, like there's a
I just
comic
created
where
like 20 fucking episodes of content for them.
there's a comic where the Hulk and Wolverine fight. What if the Hulk kills Wolverine? Like that is a perfectly that actually was a comic. It was the What If
Yeah.
comic, and that was actually interesting because like think of how the X-Men timeline would have changed without Wolverine. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's so many things, so many possibilities. And it's like the Wonder Woman thing, or not the Wonder Woman, the Captain America thing, where Captain America is the woman Peggy from the series or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, basically everything played out exactly the same, and she was Captain America. It's like, what was the point of this? Everything happened exactly the same, except now we have woman Captain America. It's like, okay, great. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so
It's just,
stupid, man. It's so dumb.
and they're not even really doing it like, they're not changing stuff to actually change stuff. They're changing stuff to get people to be like, oh, you might like this. We changed something, when in reality they didn't change anything. Because to say that changing no storyline whatsoever, but changing a race, to me that's not changing anything. Because I don't watch something just because someone is a certain race. You know what I mean? Like, I watch it for the storyline. As long as the storyline lines up, and I mean, so far the example I used before, Resident Evil, storyline ain't lining up like it should be, because they changed the race on the Wesker family, right? Like, that's throwing the story into a whole different dimension. Whereas they could have actually left them African American and not had that change the story because they're African American. But they changed it that way. And doing that is just destroying the whole base that everything has been built up.
Well, there's this weird concept in Hollywood that every character, like every main character, has to be somehow relatable to like as many people as possible, and
Yeah.
somehow that only somebody that is can relate to the character can watch something and be entertained, when that's a completely false concept. I mean, I've watched Blade, I don't know how many times. The
Fucking
original
right.
Blade was fucking awesome, and it was Wesley Snipes, a black guy. I didn't relate to anything his character, like none of his character, like his backstory, like even before he became Blade, like nothing, right?
Yeah.
I still love the hell out of that show. You don't have to relate to every character. You don't have to make a character non-binary or gay just so a gay person feels like they're included in something,
Yeah.
because in reality I know a few gay people that hate this fucking woke bullshit, and they're like, nah, like them shoehorning in gay and like trans shit into like TV shows just makes it almost unwatchable, and I couldn't agree more. It's so obvious they're just like shoehorning it in.
Yeah.
It's yeah, like the characters are not written because of that. It's just like a side thing that's just they happen to be this, right? It's it doesn't work for any plot points, and it's pointless, and yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and it's I think it's kind of counterintuitive to what they're trying to do, because they're
Right.
trying to they're trying to, I don't want to say they're trying to normalize this, because like everything we talked about is normal, but they're trying to prove that they're normalizing something by changing this and like saying like, hey, look, we changed it. Whereas the people that identify as whatever the fuck are just like, great, like that's you could have just changed it and not told us you changed it. Like it you don't have to point out the fact that you're doing it. You're just trying to normalize something the wrong way instead of just doing it without drawing attention to it. Like if you think of the Buzz Lightyear movie that just came out, right? Like that was a whole fucking controversy because there was a same-sex kiss in it. And it was only controversial because someone said it was supposed to be in it, but we took it out and then they put it back in. It's like, well, why take it out in the first place? Just fucking leave it in. Even if it does nothing for the story, don't take it out so someone can say we took it out, and then you get labeled all the fucking whatever isms and phobes there are in the world just to put it back in, right? Like it's they're manipulating people's identities for basically like clicks and PR right now is basically all they're doing.
I just want to live in a world where companies don't bow down to a bunch of mouthpieces on Twitter spewing off their rhetoric and trying to cancel people. I want people to actually stand up and have integrity. And if you cut out a gay kiss out of your movie because of time constraints and it didn't have any plot points, then stick with it and don't bow down to like cancel culture, because they're not going to stick with you anyway. Everybody knows the left eats itself, and you can never possibly be woke enough for the next generation. So it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And then you're going to be like, oh, eventually it's going to be, people are going to be like, oh, if you're not okay with pedos, then you're a bigot and you can't be part of the LGBT community, because pedos are going to be in there pretty soon, by the way. So
And it's
I've seen a lot of people on Twitter basically saying that, oh, it's just another mental illness that has to be taken care of and all this stuff, and like they should be part of it, and like people that don't offend should be like a part of our community and all this stuff. And it's sickening, man. And it just harpens back to all these normalizations of sexualizing children the left has been doing with what we talked about. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, with like these transgender strippers and these like drag shows with kids, and they're stripping in front of them at bars and stuff. See, this all ties in together, and there seems like there's a common theme to what the left is trying to do. And I don't think I have to spell it out any further.
Yeah, and I mean the funny part is like I'll use Netflix for example because they had a show that was like basically thrown in a fucking wood chipper before it even came out, and I think it was called Cheer Squad or something like that, and it was basically like I'll say ages 6 to 12-year-old girls in like a cheer squad, like doing cheerleading, right? And it's because of the people that are sexualizing that it became bad, and Netflix made a point to put it up only to take it down, to show like we don't care what you think, but then take it down because like, yeah, we still need your money.
Are you talking about Cuties?
That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Netflix stood behind that the whole time. And I'm pretty sure Netflix might be getting sued for that too. So I don't know how much we can talk about that, but I watched a lot of different investigative reporters that did investigations on that, and I didn't watch it, but I did hear that there was a lot of like innuendo and stuff, and these kids were like 9, 10 years old, sometimes 13, something like that, like 9 to 13.
Right.
And that's pretty fucked up. But apparently Netflix like stood behind it, and like all these like leftist, like woke journalists reviewed it and gave it like really good scores, and it's really sketchy, man. Like it's just like the theme keeps getting thicker and thicker with these people.
All right. Yeah. Because I mean that that kind of shows how much I fucking like really paid attention to it. But it's like, all right, if just the fact that a major company like Netflix could even think that was a good idea from what you described, right? Like to think that a multi-billion-dollar company would that it would get past like at least one panel of people to be like, yeah, this is awesome.
It really it goes to show you how like how deep it goes, because it's not just like a few people on the left that are okay excuse me, okay with this stuff. It really goes quite deep, and like if it got through, like you said, all the people like on the like executive board and whatnot, you got to think that it goes all the way to the top.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because like nowadays, no one's looking to cancel the person on the bottom. They want to cancel the person on the top. And like if even if the person on the bottom got a letter from the person on the top that said this, that, and the other thing, they'd try and cancel both people. One for exposing it and being like, "Oh, you shouldn't have did that. You got to respect him." Blah blah blah. And then they'd read it and be like, "Well, yeah, we're going to cancel you too because you shouldn't have gave it to him to you made him feel bad or some shit like that, right?"
Yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly okay with them removing something like that if it's vulgar and like having children involved.
Yeah,
Like that's where I think it's not censorship, it's just, you know, keeping kids safe.
but you got to remember that there's a lot of people that watched, like I think it was TLC had like basically like preteen girls at like beauty pageants and shit like that. And then there was like the parents bringing them to fucking to that. Like
Well,
that
I don't agree with that either.
I that might still be going on, to be honest. I remember that was like a huge toddlers and tiaras. That's what I was thinking of. That's the
Yeah.
name of the show. I'm going to see if that was canceled or not. Probably going to
I
show up on
yeah, I
watch
don't
list
agree with
now.
that either, honestly. I don't agree with those beauty shows for little kids either, because that just sounds like it's a breeding ground for some sick shit.
Oh, absolutely. And like that's like I think that's probably where Netflix was coming from doing something like this. But I don't know because I didn't watch either of the shows because of just the limited shit that I know from both of them. It's like, yeah, that's I'm not your target audience. I want nothing to do with this shit.
You also have to understand too that um the parents that are allowing the kids to do this kind of stuff also have some serious fucking problems,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
because I would never ever allow my child to be involved in any of that kind of stuff. When it starts to get into a sexualized nature when it comes to my kids, no, that's where I draw the line. And I look at these parents and I think all that they're thinking about is my kid is now my cash cow
Yeah.
and I'm going to use them to get myself rich.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because like you can just look at like all the YouTube channels now. Like there's a toy channel on YouTube. I think it's like Ryan's Toy Reviews or something like that. And it's literally like I think he was like 6 when they started it. And it's just his parents filming him reacting to like toys that they bought him. And they have like I'm sure it's at least 10 million subscribers on YouTube if it's still up on YouTube. And like that's so much fucking money that Ryan or whatever his name is from the toy review channel is never going to see because his parents are just blowing it because like he's just a fucking gold mine to them at this point.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. And like, I don't know, like when it's something like that, okay, but when you start like exploiting the kid, that's when I start to have a problem with it. Like if they're forcing this kid to do this, or like, making him do it in like skimpy clothes or some shit like that, then that's where I would be like, nah, fuck that. That is like exploitation of a minor.
Yeah.
And honestly, you should have your kids taken away from you.
So here, I'll read. I was looking up toddlers and tiaras just for an example. Toddlers and Tiaras, or Another Toddlers and Tiaras, is an American reality TV series that aired on TLC from January 27th, 2009 to October 16th, 2013. After a 3-year hiatus due to much controversy, Another Toddlers and Tiaras aired. The sequel on August 24th, 2016. The show follows personal lives of families of contestants in a child beauty pageant. Like many shows about children pageants, it generated controversy for dressing children provocatively. The show led to another reality show spin-off, Eden's World, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, and Cheer Perfection. On November 2016, TLC canceled the show after its 7th season. 7 seasons of Toddlers and Tiaras and 120 episodes, with what was that? 5 spin-off shows. Like
I don't want to
that,
live on this planet anymore.
doesn't that just kind of sum up exactly what the fuck is going on in this world? Like,
Yeah, it really does. It really goes to show you where these people's heads are at.
and like I don't get it, because there's so many other awesome fucking great shows that don't get past 1 or 2 seasons, because probably the people that are watching these shows, Toddlers and Tiaras, don't like it. You know what I mean? And it's like, hold on, like, we should just fucking like scrap the fucking reality shows and make actual content.
Well, wouldn't that be a perfect world?
Oh man.
Scrap the reality shows and actually make good content like The Sopranos. Like, I think The Sopranos could not be made today because there'd be too much backlash and it'd probably get canceled after the first season. As soon as Tony called that kid a charcoal briquette and a moulignon,
Yeah.
the fucking show would have been canceled.
Now, I think it would thrive, because it shows um it shows bad people doing bad things. You know what I mean? So it shows like a mob boss behaving bad, right? Like that's kind of where the world's at right now, where they want you to see bad people on TV all the time, and they want to highlight bad people doing bad things.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they would allow the kind of language and the kind of gratuitous nudity, because even when Game of Thrones was out, they were talking about all like the nudity and how many white people were in the show. And Game of Thrones was what, 5 years ago, maybe? It ended maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that then, and it's even gotten worse now. Like I haven't even watched The Witcher yet. I've been meaning to, but I heard they like recast characters into like different ethnicities and whatnot. I'm just like, really? Why do you? This is a Norse like, this is a Norse type thing. How many black people were in that area at that time? Please explain this to me. Like, come on. There's a
Well,
reason why
it's a
Siri is
fantasy
white.
realm, right? Like
There's a reason why Siri is supposed to be white with white hair, because it's based on the Norse area, right?
yeah.
So I don't know. It's very stupid.
So here's something else to kind of change, actually, to throw another not to throw another race in, but to throw another cat in the fight, or another dog in the fight. So did you ever watch the show Fresh Off the Boat?
No, I haven't.
So, do you know what it's about, like the premise of it?
I have no idea.
All right. So, it's basically an Asian family moves from, oh, I want to say Orlando to somewhere else in Florida. And they call it Fresh Off the Boat because, like, the characters in the show are coined fresh off the boat, like just like a fucking like a WAP without papers, Italian kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So it's them living in basically white suburbia, and it's like it's a fucking awesome show. It's canceled now, but it was fucking awesome. And they made it a point to say basically like, yeah, we're Asian characters, like in the show. Like they point out so much Asian shit that's going on. And when I say Asian shit, I don't mean it derogatory. I mean it like just the stuff that Asians do, right? I don't mean fuck, I'm going down. Anyway, so they do it to highlight the heritage of the family that the show is cast around. And they do it in a way that from an outsider like myself, I'm Caucasian. I'm not Asian, I'm Caucasian. It looks to me like they're doing the right thing. And there was a lot of controversy about whether or not they were doing the right thing. And it turned out they were doing exactly what everyone wanted them to do, except when it came down to the contracts for the actors in the show. So what happened was they ended up canceling the show. As far as I know, it was because one of the main characters in the show was locked into a contract, and she wanted to have an open contract. She wanted to have the option to continue the show without facing repercussions. Now, when I say she, I mean Constance Wu. She was the mother of the family. So she got caught up in a ton of shit going on Twitter because she tweeted at one point, it was the last season of Fresh Off the Boat. She tweeted that the show got renewed. Now, from what I see, there may have only been one comment that she was reacting to or whatever. Someone said, "Oh, that's great news." And she said, "No, it's not." When she said, "No, it's not," it was in reference to the fact that she was still locked into that one last year or the one last season of that. She didn't mean it in a way that she didn't like the show. She meant it in a way that it's not good for her because it's tying her up into something where she wants to be able to go out and do other things. Now, what happened was the Asian community basically destroyed her on social media, like full blown telling her like you're a plight to the Asian race, like, and this is all coming from verified Asian entertainers and shit like that, to the point that she, from what I'm reading here, deleted all of her social media for, I believe it was 3 years, to just get away from all the fucking hate she was getting. And it's just baffling that one little reply, everybody instantly takes it down the road of like, we're taking away your Asian card, your white card, your black card, whatever the fuck it is.
And that's social media in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, one person making a small mistake and then everybody piling onto them. That's basically what social media is in a nutshell. That's why if I ever got famous for anything, I would get off social media the first chance I could, because I would know that there'd be nothing but hate coming my way because of anything I ever did in my past. They could dig up. And this podcast, for example, if I got famous one day and they came back to this podcast and were like, "Oh my God, look at that transphobe or that whatever," like some little thing that I said that they can pick apart, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would get off social media, and I think Joe Rogan is one of the bosses when it comes to like talking about social media shit, because he doesn't manage any of his social media. He doesn't look at any comments on his YouTube channel. He doesn't look at any Spotify comments. Can you make comments on Spotify? I don't know. but
No, I
he
don't think
doesn't
you
look
can.
at anything like that, right? Like no
Right.
Facebook shit, nothing. Because he says he doesn't need the negativity. He says it's mostly positive, 90% of it's positive, but that 10% of negative can really fucking affect you and really fuck you up. There's actually a Japanese woman who committed suicide after being bullied online relentlessly. Um, she was a wrestler, I believe, or not a like American style wrestling, but like a Japanese style professional wrestler.
Right. Yeah.
And she was on a reality show, and she got bullied so relentlessly over a reality show that she was on, and half of that shit is scripted. And because of her character did something in this reality show, they bullied the shit out of her, and she ended up committing suicide. So that's something I think when I saw that, I was like, you know, it's not worth it. It's just the internet. Like, people are not going to like you no matter who you are. So do not read that negative shit. And if it starts to get too much, just leave because you don't need to stay on social media if it's starting to affect your mental health.
Right. Yeah. And like, uh, I got a story to talk about that you might be familiar with. And when I say that, I mean only because it's a Canadian story. Uh, do you remember Amanda Todd?
And a Todd. Yeah, isn't that the one that drank bleach?
No. So this one, she was, it says she was a 15-year-old student, and she was basically cyberbullied, basically into suicide. I think the trial's still going on right now to this day. The whole thing started, yeah, so the trial started June 6th, 2022. I believe she took her own life. When does it say she took her own life? In 2012. So 10 years later, this whole thing is still going on. Uh,
How is this only now going to trial?
well, the problem is that I'll say the main person who was cyberbullying, harassing, stalking, exploiting her, and everything like that was, I want to say, in Norway or Sweden or something like that. And so what ended up happening was they were talking to each other, and uh, the yeah, so he was in the Netherlands. So the douchebag that she was talking to ended up basically talking her into doing stuff that, I mean, all teenagers can be talked into doing certain things. And in this case, it was what was it? She was blackmailed into exposing her breasts via webcam. So what happened was the person that was blackmailing her took screenshots, recorded everything, and basically just held it over her head saying, I want more. I want more. If you don't give me more, I'm going to put what I have on Facebook, everything like that. So, of course, I mean, we didn't grow up in the YouTube era that all these kids are growing up in. So we can't really see how it would have affected us, but just the way that it affects other kids now is fucking devastating because kids of this age don't really understand that when you put something on the internet, it's fucking permanent. That delete button just makes a copy and moves it to a different server. And like it's the delete button's not deleting anything, it's just replicating it. And of course, kids of that age have no idea of the impact that they can actually do with that. So what happened was she actually, before she took her own life, she made a YouTube video with a series of flashcards explaining exactly what happened to her. And that is actually, as far as I know, it's one of the key pieces of evidence when they're trying, or as they're trying, the guy in court right now to use against him.
Well, if he was blackmailing over social media, there should be a trail, a like gold mine trail of evidence, you know, because everybody knows if If you start talking to somebody on social media, that is getting stored in a database somewhere. It doesn't matter if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blah 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 blah. All the cops have to do is go to Facebook and say, "Yo, Mr. Zuckerberg, we need access to your database," and then bam, all that messages, all the pictures that were sent back and forth, that's all available to the police, and Facebook will do that. So, just so you know, that's not saying that that's a bad thing. It's you just should be aware of it. Nothing on social media is secure. But that's really interesting. I didn't know that trial just started. Wow, like I remember when that first happened. Like that 2012, really?
2012. Yeah.
Damn.
I'm
10
gonna
years
DM
ago.
you the link to the Wikipedia here, just so you can. But
Yeah,
it's
I got
like,
it.
what the fuck, like, and I understand different jurisdictions and shit like that, but it's to the point where I don't understand why different jurisdictions have different rules and regulations in regards to digital media, because digital media it's all fucking binary shit. It's all ones and zeros. And it's so easy to make one rule to just fucking cover everything digital wise, right? Like, and the fact that somewhere like the Netherlands didn't have any law against them doing what they did, because it, I'm guessing here, but it looks like he was what do they call it when they bring someone in to face trial? So he was extradited from the Netherlands into Canada to face trial in Canada, because that's where the victim of his crime was.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. So he was from Netherlands. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. My kids are not having social media until they're 21, so I'm gonna
Good
make
luck
sure
with
of that. Yeah.
Well,
well,
I'll put it this way.
I've heard good luck with that before, but
I have
parental
no
controls
social
on their
media
phones
whatsoever right now.
Yeah,
None.
no.
This is my social media, is this podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've been off Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, fucking everything for, oh Jesus, maybe 6 years, 5-6 years, somewhere around there.
I do Facebook and I casually go on Twitter sometimes, but I've been banned on Twitter so many times. So, but yeah, I do the Facebook sometimes when I'm bored, but that's as far as I go. No Instagram, no Snapchat,
Hold on.
no
Did
any
you
of
just
that.
say the Facebook?
I do the Facebook, yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Just dated myself on that one, didn't I?
Boomer.
Damn.
Boomer.
The Facebook. But yeah, no. I don't think kids should have social media. I think it's bad for their self-esteem. Yeah. I mean, kids are children. And just think about this for a second. To allow a child of yours to have access to getting messages from anyone in the world, that is what you're allowing when you have social media. That is a
social media,
scary thing. The internet, even just the internet, right?
No,
so
they don't even need the internet if they have a cell phone, right? The amount of fucking like scam calls going on, from like auto dialers and
text,
shit like that.
But it's really easy just to message somebody on like Facebook or whatever, right? So you see a picture of somebody, some like creep is like, that's like some young girl. I'm gonna like message her and hit her up, right? Like having social media as a child is allowing all these predators basically into your home. And to me, as much as of a cliche as that sounds, it's 100% true. And honestly, I'm gonna be watching my kids like a hawk, and I'm gonna be making sure that they don't fall victim to that bullshit, because yeah, And you have to tell your kids about this stuff too. As weird as it may be, and as like uncomfortable as it may be, you have to tell your kids about this stuff. You
Yeah.
have to tell them that there's people out there that want to hurt them.
And not only tell them and warn them about this stuff, but make sure that they know that if something is going on, no matter how fucking bad it is, that they can come to you and tell you what's going on.
Exactly.
No judgment. You need a fully open line of communication with them. So even if they're hiding something, just accept the fact that they've told you they're hiding something. That right there is fucking huge. Don't pry into, well, what are you hiding? Just be like, okay, well, thank you for telling me you're hiding something, right? Like it doesn't matter what they're hiding. What matters is the fact that they feel comfortable telling you they're hiding something. And that's going to blossom into so much more information that you can give your child and your child is going to give you. Because the moment you start prying, they lose that sense of trust. And once they lose that sense of trust, they're not going to tell you they're hiding more things. Because even if they tell you they're only hiding one thing, at least they're telling you something.
A very important distinction you should make to your kids is that it doesn't matter how big it is, they should be able to come to you and they're not going to get in trouble if they tell you. You know, like that is an important thing because a lot of predators will say, "Oh, you're gonna get like in big trouble if if I tell your parents, or like if your parents find out, you're gonna get in big trouble and stuff like that." And that's why a lot of like kids hide that kind of stuff. And another distinction that should be made would be um, if I lost my train of thought now. Shit.
Well, the one thing I can think of while you're getting your train back on the rails there is I look at it as the way that if you're not ready to bury a body with your child, why do you have that child? If you're not ready to protect them, no matter what the fuck they do, why do you have them?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like I would do anything for my kids,
Yeah.
no
Oh,
matter
fucking
what.
absolutely.
But I think it's very good to make sure the kid knows that they're not going to get in trouble if they tell you secrets or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, like a lot of people will do that. And oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. Stranger danger just does not apply only to real life. It also applies to on the internet too. And that's another thing that I think people need to realize and tell their kids. Stranger danger exists on the internet as well.
Yeah, and that's something that like not necessarily the stranger danger part of it, but something that I found weird going into this whole digital social networking era was was actually getting that separation of the internet and real life, was realizing that the internet does affect and impact real life. And like I'm fucking now when I look back at it, there should have been so many flags going up for me to help me along that way, but there was nothing because I technology was so new, not just for me, but it was also so new for my parents. Whereas now, all the parents out there right now, I'm going to throw this at you. You got no fucking excuse to not understand any of the technology your kids are using because all you have to do is ask your child, how do I do this? They'll pull over your iPad or your tablet or whatever. They'll bring up a YouTube video showing you how to do it. That right
Yeah.
there is exactly what you need to do. You need to
Yeah.
ask them questions, get them to explain shit. If they're not willing to explain something for you, you take it right the fuck away from them until they explain something.
And anything you need to know is just a Google search away.
Yeah.
Like the world's vast knowledge, almost anything that's ever existed for information for humans, whether it's how to post a TikTok video, how to delete a TikTok video. I'm never gonna have a TikTok and I'm never gonna have my kids on TikTok. And that's like one of the main things. But yeah, my point is, everything is a Google search away. If you need to know how to use TikTok in order to monitor what your kids are doing on there, I wouldn't suggest allowing them to have TikTok. I think that's a gateway to some very bad shit, and that's another story. But yeah, it's a Google search away. You have no excuse. Monitor your kids, keep them safe.
Yeah, like if in this information age, if your kid doesn't feel comfortable coming to you with the spectrum of I shit in the bathtub to I just killed my teacher, if they don't come to you with anything in between those, there's a bigger problem that you need to address with your child, because everything in between that, your child should feel totally comfortable to you talking about. And if they're not comfortable talking about that to you, it's not their fault. It's your fault. You made them fear telling you something. It was how you reacted sometime that you negatively affected their impact on how they would communicate with you in the future. And it's something that you need to fix, because if you don't fix it when they're young, you're never going to fucking know what the fuck they're like when they're an adult.
And that, my friends, was Fuck Your Feelings.